Thank you so much, Ashwin.
Or yeah, no worries. Let me double check that I have actually started the recording. Yes, it's being recorded. Just out of curiosity, how much are you guys familiar with Rhino?
So they just completed an assignment that they looked at different like formal expressions. So they learned quite a bit. They did things like drape, different topography creations. They also looked at Boolean, push and pull and rebuild forms, tubing effects. So they did quite a few like small little maquettes tutorials. So they should have some, at least a good, I would say, beyond basic knowledge of Rhino.
Okay, then it's gonna be very easy, guys, for you. So as you can see here, I have a train model. I think you guys develop some kind of like train model. Depends on your concept, or it doesn't really matter if you use drapes or pull and pull out the points. And you should have some surface like that. So in terms of creating the sections or section lines, first we have to draw a few lines to actually determine where exactly we want to set our sections. So as you probably know, you can work in different views in Rhino. So for this specific assignment, I will go to the perspective and the top view here. And then let's say that I want to draw a, can you guys see my screen? I didn't ask.
Yes, everything's good.
All right, so let's say that I want to draw a section through this part of, the train model here. So I'm just gonna draw a line. As you know, I can type the command. The command is line, and before that, I'm gonna create a layer here. I will rename it because I'm in the layer. It doesn't let me rename it. That's weird. Oh, because there we go, line. And then I would change the color to red. And then I'll go to the layer here. I double select it and then draw a line here, right? I am in the top view. I'm drawing a section line over the train model that I have. It doesn't have to intersect my model in the perspective, but it has to be over my train model here. And after that, it's very easy step. You just like type section. It's gonna ask you select the objects for section, and obviously that's my object here. And after you're done, space or enter, you can pretty much follow the guidance here. And then I'm just gonna follow this line here that I drew, right? I'm gonna grab the starting point and the end point, and as you can see, there you go. We have our section line here. Okay, so that's like the first step. That's if you want to have just like one section line. So that's going to be your section line. Let's say you want to have the array of the line. So you can make a copy of that line here. This is a huge site. It's about, I think, 1 kilometer to 1 kilometer. I'm just going to copy it probably about 200 meters apart, something like that. So that's one way. You first copy the first line. You're just gonna iterate and add more lines to it, if you want to create those like sequential sections. But there's also an easier way that you can do it. Instead of just like copying and copying, you can use array, right? You just type the command array, select the object here. You just need to follow these guides here, right? Select the objects array. I'm done. The number of the lines in X direction. If you look at this at the bottom left here, it says the X and Y, direction. In the X direction, I just need 1. I don't need actually anything there. Enter number in Y direction. Probably I need 10 lines. And then in Z direction, again, 1. We don't need anything on the Z direction. Then the spacing or first reference point here. So the spacing, I will go with the same number here. And then as you can see here, it's gonna generate, it's gonna just like iterate all the all the lines for me. You can also work with the spacing. Before, you have to accept it before actually it's drawing the lines here. You can change the spaces if you think they're too far away from each other. You can make it kind of like closer to each other and make it more. There you go. So let's say we have just like how many 13 curves here, and I want to create a series of sections through my train. So we just talked about how we can just create a section from one line there, right? So I'm just going to create a new line. I put it section lines and change the color to probably green for landscape architects. I'm going to go to the layer and then start typing section. I'm going to select the train model that I have for the section and start actually drawing the section. As you can see, I'm just clicking on the starting point and the end point. And as you can see in the 3D view, it's generating the section lines, right? And because I create a layer here, it's going to put it in that layer. So it's going to be easier for me at the end. So I'm not going to trace all of these here. I'm pretty sure that you guys are going to do it better than me. I'm going to turn off all these layers here, and there we go. I have my section lines through my train model here, right? So, all right, let's say that we have all these section lines, right? And then as you can see, it looks pretty much like flat on my top view here. How can I export these lines to create to actually show the section, right? So all I have to do is just create a copy here, and then I go to the right view or the front view. It depends on which way works better for me. Here and then here, I think this one, and I start just like simply rotate all these section lines here. So I'm not going to do all of them. And as you can see now, you have your section lines in your top view here that you can just like easily export it to Illustrator. How we can export it? Just like select the lines or the section lines that you want to have. File, export selected. And then from the save as type, you have to find the Adobe Illustrator here, right? So I'm just gonna like save it here. And then it's gonna ask you if you want to preserve the model. Yes, 1-to-1 or the snapshot of current view, that's probably safe. And then from there, you can go to your Illustrator file, open that file there, and then you can also work with the Illustrator. Let's actually do a quick test. I'm opening the Illustrator file. Illustrator and Rhino, I call them the best friends. In terms of exporting from Rhino to Illustrator, I think that's one of the best, what I call the hybrid approaches, specifically when you're creating some kind of like diagram or kind of like conceptual modeling. These are the great tools to work together. And then from here, you can just like simply just work with Illustrator here, right? So I can change the line weight and everything, right? So I guess you guys are familiar with Illustrator, so you can change the line weights here, the line types, and all kind of like the attributes. You can make it a dashed line, and then you can go from there. The other way to generate these section drawings, which could be a bit more complicated, but probably it's going to save you guys some time there. So as you saw, I had to actually draw one by one on the plan view here to generate the section lines on that, right? Is there a better way to skip that, to skip that repetitive way? Yes. But there are two things that you have to take into consideration. First of all, your train modeling, it has to be a NURB. guys, it's not really matter. It doesn't really matter if you're not familiar with mesh and NURB. Just know that there's a difference between mesh and NURB. You're gonna figure it out after you start doing some complex modeling. But for the purpose of what I'm gonna talk about, just make sure that this is a NURB, surface. How we can figure out? You can just like simply select your surface here, properties, and it says it's open mesh. So there is a command in Rhino that you can change the mesh to NURB, and it's absolutely exactly how it sounds like, mesh to NURB command here. It's gonna create and generate NURB model for us. It's gonna take a few seconds, hopefully. So as you can see here, when I click on it, it says open poly surface there. The next step, I'm just gonna move the lines, the surface lines here. And this time, I'm gonna extrude these lines. I'm gonna select all, extrude curve. Okay, the same way that you're extruding probably both sides to make sure that it's gonna intersect my train model here. So I will go with intersect command, select object to intersect. I'm gonna select all these panels here. And then my train model, and it's gonna take a few seconds, and there you go. You're gonna have your section lines, as you can see here. So if I hide this, this is gonna be my section lines. So the same thing here, I can rotate each, or I can also export other views if you want to show, like for the visualization purposes, if you want to show it in perspective, you want to show your section line in perspective, you can go that. You can also add some lines, which you typically do here, some kind of straight lines to emphasize on the side that you're gonna have your section to kind of like frame your section. Just doing it very quickly. I'm pretty sure that you guys have more patience to create these drawings. So any questions, guys?
That's great. Thanks so much. Any questions? And Ashwin too, like if they're doing the, I guess the sections, instead of rotating them to be flat and then bring in an Illustrator, they could even go in the front view and push each one on the side, right?
Exactly.
And then bring them in. So whatever is they're comfortable. If they don't want to rotate, you could just use a front view and just line them up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then bring them, or even bring them down and up in the front view. And then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What exactly Nadia is explaining right now, that's pretty much what I'm doing here, right?
Yeah.
The key point is that, guys, you have to make sure that you are in the proper viewport, right? So in this case, you have to be in the front viewport and select and export. When you're exporting, it's very important that which view you are, because it's going to export the exact look of the view or the viewport that your model is in.
Great. I think that you covered everything. That's perfect for this final assignment.
All right. Okay.
And new techniques. So we'll open it up to questions about either this or the parametric design too. Any questions? I guess you can stop the recording too, Ashwin.
Okay.